But it is a good opportunity for both of you to kind of sit through the listing presentation, and also to get something for the training for the agent resources page as kind of a reference point for everybody. So I'm going to share the screen here in a minute just to kind of show you the stuff. But honestly, that's bothering me. Honestly, one thing that I want you to think about is do not be intimidated by listings. They're people just like buyers are. A lot of times they're even more motivated because they have something that they're trying to accomplish that they probably need to sell for. So just remember what we do. It's about forming a relationship and providing value. That's at the heart of everything we do, whether it's buyers or sellers. So if you go with that mindset, it's fine. And so Meredith went with me to a listing. Well, I went with her, actually. It's her listing presentation. I was just kind of helping her out first time through it. And basically, this is my approach to it. You know, meet them, pet the dogs or whatever, hug the baby as it's applicable, and just, you know, talk about everything but real estate until there's kind of a little bit of a gap. And then say, well, why don't you show me around? That's where I really like to start. Give me the tour of your house and just show me, you know, show me all about it. Tell me all about all the things you've done, how long you've lived here, what you love about it, why you're moving, blah, 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 and just kind of go from there. It gives you a good opportunity to just kind of disarm them, not make it seem quite so formal. People are more comfortable talking about themselves and their house, and that really kind of helps ease into it. And honestly, kind of with the buyer consult, we like to sit down and do it because it's a good opportunity to set expectations. Excuse me. But at the same time, you don't necessarily always have to sit down and be really formal and go through the binder. Now, always bring the folder just like you do the first time you meet any buyer, because first of all, we're required to provide them copies of some of this stuff for the agency agreement. And when they sign the offer to purchase, right, they're saying, yes, we've received this stuff. They've given it to us. So you want to give it to them for that reason. But also there's some stuff that you can pull out and get them to sign if they're really ready to move forward. So there's kind of a twofold reason to do that. Also, you know, you can say, I'm going to be sending you the documents. I'm going to leave this behind so you have an opportunity to look through them and make sure that you don't have any questions. Again, same script that we use for buyers. And for the most part, 90% of this is the exact same presentation. You're just coming at it from a slightly different angle, right? Because we're still talking about the process. It's just the opposite side of the process, but we're all trying to get to the same end. So just like with the buyer consult, you're going to start out with the about the team and about who you are, right? Give them just a little bit of background on the team, what areas we serve, kind of the maturation of that. We started at the coast, now we're in the triangle. Why we started at the coast. You know, my granddad's the one who started the company. It's a family business, blah, blah, blah. And then go on and talk a little bit about yourself and your background, where you're from, your education, what you've done previously, why you chose real estate, why you wanted to be part of this team, boom, right? And then, of course, you guys will both get here in a little bit, but for now, the second page for you is just what our clients are saying. It's some feedback about the team and what we do and how our clients feel about us and what we've accomplished. And don't just take our word for it. Go to Google, go to Zillow, search the Oceanair Realty, look and see what people have said about us. We have 5 stars everywhere. Boom, that's kind of it. And then we really kind of get into the seller consult. So similar to the buyer consult, we want to start with our mission, vision, and tenants. Just kind of set the expectation that, hey, this is who we are and what we do. We have the experience you need to make your best move. Not just me individually, but us collectively as a team. We serve North Carolina from the triangle to the coast. Just FYI, if you're moving between, we can help you. If you know people, we can help you there as well. Really, what I want you to understand is what we say is our mission. And we tell everybody this. And it's really about giving you the guidance and knowledge you feel or you need to feel comfortable and confident about making this really big decision. One of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your entire life, right? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're going to give you the guidance so you feel good about it. And that's what we're all about. Okay. Why should you list with us? Okay. So now let's talk just a little bit more about what we do and our approach to getting your home sold. Okay. What we want to do is simplify this entire thing for you. It can be really complicated. We don't want it to be complicated for you. We're going to handle the business end of it. We're just going to ask you to do some things. So we're going to leverage and utilize our experience and expertise to maximize return on your investment, of course, in the shortest time possible with minimal impact on your time and energy. We're going to do the work. Just do a few things that we ask you to do to make it easier, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to give you a complimentary home consultation, including the home evaluation. And we're going to get to the comps and talk about what we perceive as what your home would sell for on the market today based on market value, right? We're going to have professional photography and measurements done to help your home put its best foot forward. And why is that really important? And why does it really frustrate me when I see other listings and you can tell somebody shot it with their iPhone? Well, it's because if people don't like the pictures online, they're never going to come to the door, you know? So if I can't get them in your house, they're never going to buy it. So we go the extra effort to have this done professionally because we want to get people here, right? Also, measurements are really important because we price per square foot and we want to make sure that we're dealing with accurate information when we are pricing, right? We can give you guidance from a stager as needed. Juliana is living the high life, and I love that. That's what we do at the Oceanair Realty. We need to work that into the presentation. No, move it back in. That's fantastic. It's even backlit from your lamp, so it's even better and more dramatic. But I can tell you one thing. No stager is going to tell you more what buyers are looking for than I will, because I work with buyers also, and I show hundreds of houses every year. I can tell you what buyers like and don't like when they look at homes right away. So understand, when I give you feedback, it's because I listen to the people that I work with who are looking to buy a home, right? And we all know that's true because you hear how they talk. We've got a full complement of trusted vendors for all your punch list items that need to be done: painters, handyman, HVAC, roof, all that stuff, anything that needs to be done. And we'll talk about those things a little bit later. And then you're going to get a full service experience handling everything from pre-marketing to closing and everything in between. All right. We're going to handle everything for you. You don't have to worry about going out and finding your own folks for stuff. That's what we're here for. What you do, you ask questions. So you make sure that we're answering all of them for you. And then you follow our advice, because that's what we're here for. Again, to give you the guidance and knowledge you need to make a good decision and feel good about it. Right. All right. How are we going to sell your home? Just really quickly, the marketing process. Of course, we're going to list it in MLS. This is the regional document, Meredith. I'm reworking things because I lost some files when I transferred my computer and I need to redo it. It'll work because it's similar for both. All right. So if you need to do that, if you need to print the binder, you can use the original one in .loop for now.
Are we supposed to be seeing something right now? Are you sharing your screen?
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, you are supposed to be.
That's what I was same thing. I'm like, I don't see any screen.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Backing up real quick. Mission.
Okay. Yeah.
Why you should list.
Oh, gotcha.
What we do, what we ask you to do, and how we sell. So we're right here. Getting it in MLS. We've got our Boomtown system, which we have thousands of leads in, which we can use to reverse.
Sorry, Doug.
search.
Real quick, can you make it larger by any chance?
Can I make it what?
Larger.
Is that better?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. So we use our back end system, Boomtown, which is the back end of our website. We have thousands of folks registered on our website. You may be, they may be one of them. You can play to that and say, we can reverse prospect based on people we've been looking for to find matches for your property, right? Because we want to help people. Our other folks on our team, I'm not going to represent a buyer, but somebody else on our team can represent a buyer that's interested in your house. We can actually find people in our database that strongly match with your home, right? We do direct mail to neighborhoods. We do open houses. We do direct marketing to other agents in our market. Of course, we're going to have a sign in the yard. We'll do flyers, information packets, binders in your homes to give information for when people are there. Maybe their agent doesn't print all the information like we do when we show homes. We have it there just in case they don't have that. And of course, your property is going to be featured on our website. We do ads on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's on realtor.com. It's on Zillow. It's on Trulia and out in Google. It's everywhere. And of course, we're going to be following up with you constantly as we get feedback after showings and other things as we need to maybe recalibrate where we are. Any questions about that? All right, so our marketing process is kind of four-pronged. We've got signage in the yard, right? Social media, a lot of things. Website, right here, it's on our website and others. And then we've got our Boomtown reverse search, which we talked about. All of this also includes our the marketing company or the professional photography that we use to get the pictures and measurements, et cetera, to make sure we put your best foot forward. This is just a little bit more information about Boomtown, our website and our back end. It's how we have buyers actively looking for a home like yours, and we work to really reverse prospect from our database to find folks in our database that match your property and say, hey, let's put it in front of them. It gives them a 95% score. You should look at this and consider it based on everything else that you've been looking at in our database. Not every agent can offer that. It's a huge benefit to be able to say that.
So Doug, so Lighthouse will also like get us the square footage.
Mm-hmm. So Lighthouse is a fantastic partner that we work with to do professional pictures, which includes, of course, pictures of the interior and exterior of the home, but also drone shots, which are fantastic to give people an idea of the neighborhood. People are more interested than just the house itself. They want to know what's around it, right? But they also will do a virtual tour. And it's not a virtual tour like you see it on a lot of sites, which is really a slideshow of all the pictures you've already looked through. It's actually a 3D Matterport tour where you can physically walk through the home and click. So you feel oriented. You know where things are in relation to each other. So you really have a good fix on the scope and the scale and the space of the whole thing as well. So from their pictures, they're able to, because they use this Matterport tool to take the pictures, it can also generate the floor plan, which gives us that square footage, which is hugely important because we price per square foot. So we want to make sure that we have, you know, an accurate representation. And frankly, between us, a lot of places, the past listing might be accurate. What's usually not accurate is the tax records. And we don't want to rely on a previous agent. We don't want to rely on the tax records. We want to have our own measurements done. We'll spend the additional money to make sure we have the right number. Because the appraiser is going to measure it, and we don't want that to be off and then cause renegotiation after we're under contract and reset everybody's expectations because the square footage was off, something like that. So this Lighthouse piece, there's a lot of pages. You can go through this really quickly. You can also say, hey, go look at our other listings on our website. If you go under the buy drop down at the top of the thing and you go to our team listings, you can show them any of those listings, and all but like some of the land listings are Lighthouse, just to give them an example of the quality and what it looks like if you want to do that. But this is, it's branded. It's got our information on it. Again, this is in the leave behind, which is really helpful as well. You know, it just talks about how important it is to really use professional photography and give them an example of what it looks like. Also, the aerial perspective, I think, is huge. I love that. I think that really sets us apart. You guys working with buyers, you're looking at pictures of listings all the time, right? Because you're saying, hey, is this a good fit for my buyer? They've sent it to me and said, hey, I want to go see this. So, of course, you're going and looking at it. And then you go and look at the pictures. And how many times are you disappointed in the pictures? You know, because you can tell somebody is, you know, they took it with their phone, or they're like standing around the corner when they're shooting the bathroom picture, right? And you can see their phone sticking through the door or something like that, or something's just cut off and you can't get really a good idea of the space. That's why we do that, in addition to the exterior stuff as well. And it just really shows things off.
The Sacramento Kings picked a point guard.
Okay, maybe they'll trade him. I love you. Go get in the shower. Wenzo is talking to me about the draft, Meredith. We can also do twilight photography, which is something that we will do for higher end listings, just between us. Okay. So if you know you've got a $500,000 plus or whatever, especially something that's maybe on the water or a dramatic lot, we could use that as well. Why are the 3D tours important? From some of the reasons that we've talked about, just having an idea of the space before you even go there. And especially now with COVID, and people are less comfortable going to places. It even gives them, before they say, you know what, I really want to go see this house because I like it so much, it gives them that much of a better idea of, hey, this is what the space looks like. I can understand the flow and everything. One thing that really also pisses me off is when I look at the pictures in MLS and it's like front yard, master bedroom, kitchen, bonus room, bathroom. And you're like, how did I get to this room from that room? You know, so I take a lot of care when I put my pictures in MLS to make sure that it's like you're walking through the house to the degree that you can. So there's a logical flow. This 3D tour really helps with that. And if you guys hadn't had a chance to really take a good hard look at the Matterport tours, I'd say go do it. You can go look at the listing I just added today. This won't apply for people looking at this in a few months, but go look at Lautenberg or go look at any of the listings. There are active listings. Lautenberg actually has 2 because there's a guest house. So there's 2 virtual tours, just to kind of give you an idea. Any questions about that? They can also do videos. Again, those are kind of for higher end listings. The floor plan is really important. When we have the floor plans, I include it as MLS docs, which is really important. So you can have the dimensions of the room because you're going to put that in your MLS listing, right? Because you can go and do by room in the MLS to give people a feel of the size. And it's really important that you do that because I can't tell you how many buyers I've worked with that are like, you know, our couches, how long is our couch, honey? It's like 11 feet long. We've got a huge section. Is it going to fit in here? Well, yeah, because I've got the measurements right here. And that's the value you're providing and telling your seller that we're doing that, because all of this is to make a buyer feel like when they're in the house, yeah, I can make a decision now. I don't need to go back and have my agent go ask questions. The goal of everything we're doing is to have so much information available before they go see the house, while they're at the house, that they can make a decision then. They don't have to go think about it later. That's why we do all these things. So we put the floor plan in the MLS docs as a PDF. We also add it as pictures at the end of the listing. So people see it when they're scrolling through the pictures, but also the agent can bring the floor plan when they print the disclosures and things, just like we do when we show homes. Any questions about that? We can do virtual staging. If this is virtual staging, I'll kiss your ass because that's incredible. I mean, look at that. There's no way. If it is, that's amazing. They can do it. I'm not a big fan of doing it.
With the like walkthrough tour, where is there a place to put that on MLS, or is that just on our website?
There is, yeah. So how it gets on our website is when you enter in MLS, there's an option for virtual tour, and you can add it in there. We give you this prep checklist, just some things to remind you, hey, do X, Y, and Z to get ready for the photographer to come. Okay, of course, while I'm here, I'm going to walk through with you and say, okay, these are things I would recommend for your punch list, which that's exactly why we have that 30-day coming soon period, so you can knock this stuff out while we're already pre-marketing. So I'm going to give you a list of some things, but these are just some things in general that are best for, to get ready for the photographer. Things like put the trash can away, put away clothes, make sure the toilet lids are closed, things like that. Any questions? So there's some additional things too that we like to do. Again, it's all keyed at helping people make a decision while we're in the house. All right, so we're going to leave a binder on your kitchen counter, something like that, that people can flip through while they're here. Again, not every buyer agent is like we are when we're working with buyers and print everything and bring it, right? So we leave it in the house so buyers can flip through it and see it while they're here, just in case they didn't. One of the things we like to do is this sheet that gives you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about your home. We can only share so much. We can't talk about schools, churches, anything like that. You can, however, so you can fill this out and we can put it in our binder. We can put it in the MLS docs, etc. Another thing we can do is just utilities information. Again, it's all aimed at giving people the information they need to feel comfortable now, because we say the same thing to our buyers, and we hope other agents are saying something similar to their buyers, so they have more to think about than just what's my mortgage payment going to be, who are my utility providers, and what are the average utility bills. So we provide this too. Again, it's just additional information to help folks. And then this is a sheet that we like to use. Have you done some additional upgrades or additions, or do you have some really notable features about your house? Do you have a barn? You know, did you recently recarpet or refloor or redo your bathroom or upgrade your kitchen, something like that? This is what that's for, to help explain, you know, some of the other things that you've done and help really bring those to the light and help people understand maybe why your house is priced at a certain point, etc.
Do we like fill that out, like just talk to them and kind of scribble that in, or is that something we hand off to them and they fill out on their own? Or
this one should be in Google Docs,
either
and you can edit it and type it. This one should be typed. This one can be handwritten. Yep. This one can be handwritten. I like these two to be handwritten because it looks like they're coming directly from the seller. This one should be more formal, so it's easier to understand, because you're usually talking about money things here, which is kind of justifying a price. And I want that to be a little more formal.
Okay.
Good questions. That makes sense. Okay. So we've got the home buying process in the buyer packet. The home selling process is kind of similar to that. And again, it's kind of just the same thing, but with a different spin on it. The listing appointment, what we're doing now, we're getting to know each other. You're introducing me to your house, and we're going to talk about kind of what your goals are in selling and your motivation behind it and what you're trying to accomplish. Preparing to activate, you're going to do we're going to talk about some things you need to do on your punch list during this coming soon period to get it ready. Also, at that same point, we're going to be pre-marketing your home, getting it out there in the feed so people are aware that it's coming while you're getting these things ready, so we can build some interest, maybe get multiple offers because we get people lined up for the day that we go active, right? Get more people's eyes on it instead of waiting until the day that we're ready to activate to say, hey, we're here. Let's take a month to say, hey, we're coming, right? Let's build some interest, especially in a market like this where people are scrambling for things. Going live, all right, we're officially on the market. We can take appointments. You'll get notification of those through showing time. I'll set it up so you can approve them and I can approve them for you as well, just so you know, and you can be out. We can set it to make sure you have an hour's notice, or if there are any definite time periods that you can't get out of the house, let me know and we'll block those. But what I'm saying is you need to be as flexible as possible. The sooner and more people we can get in your house, the greater chance we have of accomplishing your goal and getting it sold. We're going to receive offers. Maybe we'll get multiple. As soon as we get any offer, I'm going to bring them to you and we'll discuss about how you want to proceed and go forward. Number 6, yay, we've agreed to terms. We're going under contract. The due diligence and earnest money is due from the buyer after everybody signs. And then we move into that due diligence period, which you'll be compensated for, and you'll keep that money and get a credit for it at closing. And that kind of moves into step 7. Typically, a buyer is going to request 2 to 3 weeks for this due diligence period, and that really is what that is. It's their due diligence. They're having home inspections done so they feel comfortable about going forward. Of course, as a seller, you're not required to make any repairs, but most people have things going on with their house that they're not aware of. That's why buyers have the home inspection done, and then we can negotiate in good faith to get towards the closing line. This is also a point where the buyer will have an appraisal done for their lender. Once we get through that due diligence period, we move into the earnest period, which is usually just 1 or 2 weeks before closing. That's covered by the earnest money, which the attorney will hold. If the buyer terminates during the due diligence period, the earnest money is refundable to them. If for some reason they terminate after the due diligence period, well, you keep the earnest money just like you keep the due diligence. Once we close, you'll get a credit for the due diligence, or they'll get a credit for the due diligence because they've already paid it on their closing statement, and you'll get the earnest money as part of your net from the attorney who already has received it. And then running up to closing last steps, you're going to review the closing disclosure, which you will sign, and plan to attend closing, which is where you'll sign it. You need to get out of the house, of course. That kind of goes without saying. You need to move out and make sure that you've gotten everything out no later than the day of closing. Typically, I advise the day before closing, just to make sure you don't have any last minute stuff. Leave the property in a condition that you would want it left in. Do the repairs you've agreed to do. We're going to document those and pass those on to the buyer. Get the property out, but leave the property in you've agreed to let convey based on the offer, which is typically like your refrigerator, washer, dryer, maybe. And then, leave it clean. Don't leave extra stuff behind that you just don't want. as a way to not take it to the trash. You'll go to the attorney for closing and sign. It's really easy for buyers. It usually takes about 10 minutes. Then after the buyer sign, a few hours after that, the deed will be recorded, and then we can officially celebrate because you've sold it and you can move on to what's next. Any questions about that? Good. All right. So there are some closing costs associated with selling a property, and these are some of them for you to take into consideration. At selling, you're going to get the proceeds back, which is basically your equity that you have in your home, minus these expenses. Now, if you don't have a lot of equity in your home, you might have to bring cash to the table. Hopefully that's not the case. Most people don't. But just understand these closing costs are going to come out of that net that you still have, or your equity in your home. And then the difference is going to come to you from the attorney. So what are some of those expenses for the seller? The deed prep, which is completed by the attorney. There's some paperwork that the attorney has to take care of just to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, right? For a seller, that's usually give or take $500. It's kind of minimal, less expensive than a buyer. The tax stamps. So the seller pays what is called excise tax, or basically sales tax on the property, and that's $2 per thousand you'll pay on that. And I'll outline that on your net sheet and give you a good idea what your net is going to be. Your share of the property taxes. So basically you owe X amount of property taxes for the year. You've owned it for this many days of the year. The buyer will own it for this many days of the year. You're going to pay a prorated share of your taxes at closing. Okay. If the tax bill hasn't already been paid. If the tax bill has been paid, then you'll get a credit for that. If it hasn't been paid, then you will pay it at closing, and then you'll get a refund from your escrow account, from your bank, from your lender. That's if you have a mortgage. If not, then you'll just pay the difference if you haven't already paid your tax bill. The real estate commission, of course, seller pays commission in North Carolina. That covers the buyer and the listing, or the buyer's agent and the listing agent. Any fees associated with a loan payoff or transferring funds for closing, and any costs that you agree to pay on behalf of the buyer as far as seller paid closing costs that are negotiated as part of the offer. None of that is standard, but it can be negotiated and could be part of the buyer's offer. Any questions about that?
So the seller would pay the year's taxes and then get the prorated amount that the buyer pays back, but they'd still pay the full amount. They just get a refund.
So no, they will pay their share if the tax bill hasn't already been paid.
Okay,
if
so they just pay their half.
Right, basically. Yeah, they pay their percentage and then the buyer pays their percentage at closing.
Okay.
If the bill's already been paid, the buyer will pay their percentage, but it will be a credit back to the seller.
Okay. Because
the seller's already paid the full bill. Good question. Next step is just the brochure on questions on home inspections, which is also part of the buyer consult. Hopefully you're familiar with that. Just explain, hey, the buyer's going to have home inspections. If you want, we can have a home inspection done before we list the house. And then that way we can address anything that's on there that you want to and disclose it. And then that way you're not surprised by anything major. But if you take pretty good care of your house and you're not really worried about anything major, we can just wait and deal with it when the buyer comes along. Professional services disclosure, very similar to the buyer, except they're going to waive everything except for, we'll put down at the bottom, and it's in the loop, professional photography and measurements. Hug. Love you. We're working. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay.
Love you. Explain the disclosure. When you work with buyers, you explain that this is the owner giving us information about their house. When you're working with sellers, you're explaining that this is your opportunity to tell a buyer what's going on with your house so they feel comfortable about moving forward. Now, we've got this column on the right, which is no representation, which in North Carolina, you don't have to tell them anything about your house. But we want people to feel good about buying your house. So let's tell them what we know, and hopefully it's all no. And if there's anything that's yes, let's go ahead and get that taken care of before we list the property so it's not a red flag for anybody. What you're going to want to do after you get the listing agreement signed is go through this with your seller and either have them fill it out or which we're not supposed to do, but it's easier this way, over the phone, fill it out in dot loop, and then send it to them to sign. Any questions about that? Okay.
Do you recommend they get an inspection before?
If you go to the house and you're like, I would. If you go to the house and you're like, you know, I would feel good about this if this was my buyer, I wouldn't recommend it. If they're like, yeah, I don't really know, or if you can tell there's a lot of deferred maintenance, you might want to recommend it. Unfortunately, the people who probably need it most would be the people less likely to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, is it frowned upon to have like the same inspector do it before and after?
Well, typically it's not going to be the same because the buyer's going to pick their own.
Okay.
If you represent a seller, and we have one of our inspectors do it, and then for some reason we end up doing it dual as a team, then it would be a good idea for you as the other person as a buyer agent not to use the same inspector.
Just because, yeah. Just let's sketch.
For pretty obvious reasons.
Okay.
I love you. I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay.
Mineral oil and gas rights, same thing. Ask them the questions, fill it out, and let them sign it. It's probably always going to be you're going to do no rep for the first and the fourth one, and then hopefully no for 2, 3, 5, and 6. Lead-based paint, same thing. If it was built before 1978, they need to pick one of these, initial it, and then, you know, you sign this as well right here. You sign this disclosure. You don't sign the other ones. Coastal hazard addendum. This is if you're listing a property at the coast, and it's basically saying, are we aware if it's in a flood zone? If you're listing in Onslow or Pinter County, you probably need to fill this out. If it's on the island, you definitely need to fill this out. This is an FYI, Juliana. And it's pretty simple. Information goes up here, and then you click one of these, and then you click one of these, and then you have your seller sign it.
You know, oddly enough, I haven't had a single one of those yet.
They'll come up.
Yeah.
Not everybody uses them, but most of the people on the island use them. Most listings on the island already have them done. And if you help your client buy a property on the island and you don't see this, get it signed. It should be in your loop already.
Okay.
There's a no showings or coming soon document for Triangle and Regional. It just basically says, and this is for that 30-day coming soon period. It's the same amount of time for both of them. It's basically the seller saying, hey, I'm aware that it's not going to be available for showings, but you're marketing it. And that's all that it is. And I can help you walk through it when it comes to that point. And these change every year anyway, so it's not going to be the same document. But in the same, it's pretty generally the same. And also at the coast and Regional, and also at the Triangle, for the coming soon, no showings, withheld document. It's all the same thing, different names. You need to have, typically you need to have your BIC sign it, or at least the Triangle. Offer to purchase, you basically explain it just like you explain the offer to purchase working with a buyer. The big things: names, address, description, legal description, the numbers on the front page. On the second page, who the escrow agent's who's going to be. You'll explain that the buyer typically picks the attorney. As a seller, you can pick your own attorney to prepare your documents if your heart's really set on it. But I think it just complicates things and gives the opportunity to make things more confusing. And then you've got documents that need to change hands, and what they do for a seller is minimal anyways. So I suggest just using that same attorney. It'll keep things moving a lot quicker. The due diligence period, you just explain that date, of course, to them, the settlement date, and then about property, right? How the buyer is paying for it, the disclosures, if they have to sell, lead-based paint, HOA, if there's any seller paid closing costs, if they're requesting that the seller pay anything here. If they're asking for a home warranty here. if there are any other addenda that apply here, like FHA, VA, possession addendums, additional provisions addenda, anything like that. The rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. Everybody signs here, agent info here, DD and earnest receipt here. Any questions about that? And then congratulations, once you're under contract, you'll get some information from our closing manager, April. She handles all the back end things and just makes sure that the documents are where they need to be and coordinates things in-house with the other agent and with the attorney to set the dates and everything. And if we need to order any inspections, or if you are asking for us to help you to coordinate any repairs for your punch list, April will help with that as well. I'm still your primary point of contact. We've kind of taken this document out of the updated form now, so I'm not really going to talk about it that much. It's basically just talking about how we determine the value of your home, and it's about market data, and it's not what you need to get from it or what you want to get from it, because the market's going to determine what you get from it, not your expectations. And this is why, for me, it's really important, and I'm leaning in for effect, to ask them what the number they have in mind before you give them your number. That way you can respond in the way you need to respond. So if their number's crazy, you're like, I understand that, and I want you to get the most for it too. Let me show you what the comps have to say. If their number's low, understand. I think that's really doable. And let me show you why, because the comps say this. Actually, I think we can be a little more aggressive on the price. That's why you get them to talk first, so you can respond and frame it accordingly how you need to frame it. Does that make sense why we do it that way? Get them to talk first. And most people have been thinking about it. And if they haven't, that means they probably don't have any messed up expectations. So it's okay for you to say it first. What you're trying to do is get out of the head of the people who are completely unrealistic.
Is it one of those things too, like with the buyers, what they want to offer, like you can't tell them, but you can suggest?
Right. Yeah, it's like when you're working with buyers, before you ask them the number they're thinking about, you want to show them the comps to help frame the conversation before they have a chance to verbalize their unrealistic expectations. Because, 95% of people will think a thing, but when they hear something else, they'll respond in kind. And then you've got the crazy people who are like, well, no, it's 260. Even the comps say it's 289 or something, right?
Zillow says it.
Right. But this is the value you provide, and this is how you lead the conversation, because you're the expert, they're not. But you have to take control of the reins. And it's all about your attitude and your approach and the tone that you use, right? You have to be very direct. I don't use this anymore. It's a way to just say, okay, this is the price I recommend on the top, but this is what we're agreeing to start it at. And then if we don't get what you want in a week or in 2 weeks, or we're agreeing now that we're going to reduce the price because you're an unrealistic moron. You know what I mean? That's kind of the purpose of this. And you can always use it. It might still be in the loop template where you can pull it out. But it is really important, if you've got somebody unrealistic that you still want to work with and list. And I'm saying you don't want to work with everybody who's unrealistic, because it can only make you look bad. But if it's close enough that it's high, but you're like, we can go live with it, you just want to set the expectation in advance that, hey, I think this is pushing what the comps say, but you know what? We're in a competitive market for buyers. Let's list a little high and see what happens. If what we want to happen doesn't happen in a week or two, and the feedback we're getting is the price is too high, well, we need to be in agreement in advance that this is going to be the next step. Again, expectations are so important. So the net sheet looks really complicated. This is one of the few things I will fill out in front of people to give them an idea of where they are. Okay. We're going to do this as a best practices soon. And there'll be another recording on the resources page for people to go and look and get a much better idea of exactly how to fill this out. So I'm going to do a little bit of the quick and dirty version for this. Okay. The top is self-explanatory. You're going to put one or maybe two or three sales prices. So you think it's worth $250. That's what you want to list it for, but they think it's worth $275. So maybe you put $275, $260, $250, something like that. All right. And then you find out what their payoff is if there are one or two of them, and you put the estimate here. It doesn't have to be the hard number, but you want to give them, it needs to be a round number. And it's probably going to be less than that anyways, because it's going to be a month or two before it closes, right? Probably not anything else you have to fill out in the top section unless they have other liens on the home. You know, roof isn't paid for, solar panels aren't paid for, HVAC isn't paid for, something like that. The closing cost section. For sellers, across the top for the attorney fee, I'm going to put like $500 or $750. You might want to overestimate it a little bit just so they don't come back short. The brokerage fee is self-explanatory. You know, we start at 6%. Of course, you're going to talk to them about that and set that expectation. Sometimes it's 5.5, sometimes it's 5. I tell people we don't work for less than 5%. We believe in what we do. Our results and our feedback and our reviews speak for themselves. And, you know, basically half of that's going to the buyer's agent anyways. But that's the way North Carolina works. So you're going to estimate that number across the top. I'm not going to put a number for closing expenses. That's seller paid closing costs. You can talk about that later. Express fees, no. Home warranty, I'm not going to put that. Miscellaneous, no. These HOADs, dues, no. Prorated taxes, what I'm going to put here is, you know, pay your share at closing, refund from escrow, because that's basically what it is. So this number isn't going to be exact, but you're going to get money back from your escrow account if you're paying it at closing. Just remind people of that. And there's usually a couple $1,000 in there. Revenue stamps, that's really easy. It's 2 per 1,000. So if the house is $250,000, you put $500 there. I don't know why North Carolina has to say it's $1 per 500. The math is a lot easier at $2 per 1,000, but whatever. It challenges me every time I look at it. So just remember to double it and you're good to go. Survey, I'm not going to put that. You're not going to do that. VA fees. You might, if working at the coast, Juliana, you might put like $150 here for pest inspection, which sellers are required to pay for on the VA line. You don't have to worry about appraisal or any inspections unless they're going to pay for inspections up front. So then you total this number and you total these numbers and you put that here, and then you subtract this from the sales price, and that's their net. And then they sell it, sign it, and you sign it. The first time you do this, let me see it to make sure that we're doing it right. And again, we're going to do this. This is on my list for best practices soon.
So when do you typically do this?
I will do it in front of people a lot for my sellers, but you can also send it as part of the other documents. Sometimes I'll do it before I even meet with them and send it to them. Okay. It might be the first thing I send to people. You know, I have a conversation with them on the phone. I get an idea of it, and I'm like, all right, I'm trying to close for the appointment. Let me go ahead and send you an estimated net sheet, and then we can recalibrate based on what I think after I actually see your property.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if like you take it there, people don't know some of this stuff off the top of their head. They might have to like research. I don't know. Right. I'm just guessing.
Well, basically the only one should be their payoff, and a lot of people don't.
Right. Yeah.
So that gives you a little reason to, especially when you're newer in this, to buy some time and do it when you get back home and send it to them. So you'll say, I'm going to do the net sheet and this is what's going to be included. So send me your payoff. And then when I get home and you send me that, I'll do it and I'll send it to you. See, okay. It's just kind of a natural, I don't have to do it now, but at least I've explained it to you. So when you see it, you understand what's in there.
Okay.
Good question. Working with real estate agents, you know what that means. I always take the brochure in the packet and just pull it out. I also keep them in my binder so I can pull them out of the binder too. I recommend that. The right to sell listing agreement, you definitely should go in and look at this and make sure you feel familiar with it, because here's the thing. You need some help from them to fill this out, because there's some answers you don't necessarily know. So if you understand what's in there, you can ask these questions during the list appointment, make your notes or your mental notes and fill it out and then send it to them afterwards. Okay, first page is self-explanatory. It's just who they are, who we are. The effective date is the day it's signed. That's when you're going to start marketing it. You'll click that. You're not going to be meeting with any people if it's already for sale with somebody else. So that's not going to apply. The expiration date, based on comps you have for the neighborhood, you're setting it accordingly. I'd still probably do at least 3 months, even if the day on market is a week, just to make sure you got plenty of time for closing. Typically, I would do it like 6 months. If it's land, do a year. Can I get a refill, please? I'll tip you later. Yes. We're recording this, so sorry, everybody.
Sorry.
Hopefully you've met Amanda by now. But
Can I get a refill, Amanda? Thanks.
Juliana needs a refill. Okay, so the property, this is just like on the offer to purchase, the address, and then the legal description, etc. This is just the opportunity to talk about what are fixtures and what conveys and what doesn't. Hopefully you guys are well versed with that by now. One thing to really point out to sellers when you're meeting with them are remind them that refrigerator, washer, and dryer are personal property and don't necessarily convey, but that people will ask for them. So even though we might not put it in the listing description, if they convey, we should already know. So decide if they're going to convey, and also remind them that, hey, your oven, your dishwasher, your under cabinet microwave, all that conveys automatically, right? Also, your curtain rods convey, they're fixtures, they're attached to the house. Your TV brackets, they convey, they're attached to the house. Doesn't mean your TV does, you can take your TV off. Doesn't mean your curtains do, you can take your curtains off. But the things that are affixed to the house are considered fixtures. They convey, unless we disclose in advance that they're not going to.
Doug, with like the legal description and stuff of like with the deed book and the plot and where do we get that?
Oh,
where
really?
do we get the information from?
You can look at a prior listing in MLS, or you can look it up in Realist.
Realist. Okay, thank you.
Just like you have to do if the listing agent hadn't put it all in the MLS sheet and you need that information when you're writing up a contract. Same thing. So items leased or not owned. So that's like fuel tanks. You want to list that there because you'll need that for your MLS listing. If there's a fuel tank for the fireplace or the grill or something that they rent and don't own, that's got to convey with the property. You got to make sure that that's put here so people understand that. If there are things that are fixtures that don't convey, like grandma's chandelier in the dining room or something like that, you want to go ahead and put it here again so it's a reminder for you to put it in the agent remarks or something like that. And then personal property, this is where you document that, yeah, the refrigerator, washer, and dryer convey. Doesn't mean you're going to put it in the listing because you want to use it to negotiate, right? Even if they're planning to list it, or leave it, you want them to ask for it and use it to negotiate if you need to. This is if the seller's going to provide a home warranty in advance. It's a good idea sometimes for marketing. In this market, seller's market, no, I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's necessary. But that gives you the opportunity to prep them that buyer might ask for it. Listing price, this is the price we're agreeing to list it at. It can change before you go live. You might put one price here and then you decide to change your mind because you wait a month before you go live and 4 other properties have closed in the neighborhood, something like that. So you can just remind them of that. And then you'll look for similar properties and you'll check the USDA map to see what kind of financing options are available. Compensation, this is the total fee. So this would be like 6%. And then our actual part of it will come later on. This is where you put the total percentage using our commission and the buyer agent commission. For here, you'll put 90 days after the expiration date. This is to prevent them from selling it to somebody who's already seen the property while you had it listed, and just terminate, after your agency terminates, and then not listing with somebody else and saving money, something like that. It's the same thing that's in the buyer agency agreement, basically. And then this is the compensation for other firms. So we don't do sub-agents. You're not going to check that. You'll check the second one, buyer agents, and then you'll put 2.4% in the triangle, 2.5% in regional. That's for the buyer agent. And then ours is the difference between that and the percentage on the other page. Questions about that? They need to initial this. This is the effective date. That's when you'll start marketing it. If you're going to go longer than 30 days before you activate it, but you're getting agency, you can do that too. That's where we would use this delayed marketing date. There's a whole nother document required for that at the coast that we need to talk about. I'm not going to talk about that here. If that's the case, you can get agency more than 30 days before you're going to list it. There's just another document that you have to do because you can't put it in MLS more than 30 days before it goes live. That's what that box is for. 99 out of 100 times, you're just going to check this box. This is just saying that, yeah, we can put signs in the yard, we can do open houses, and we can do all these other things. Lockbox. You're not going to check this because it's never going to be office exclusive because we don't do dual agency or require dual agency. This is about flood insurance or, flood hazard. That will help you fill out that other document that we talked about earlier, the coastal thing, but also there are flood zones in the triangle. So you want to make sure that you're asking Meredith if folks have flood insurance. This is information about the HOA. Make sure you fill out all those lines. If there's a second one, there's another part too. If they have a termite bond, you want to get that information because usually they're transferable, especially if there's a VA they're going to ask for them to be transferable, especially at the coast. So you want that information already. This is where they're saying that they've received these other forms, which is why we give them to them in the folder. This is where you just put general information about who the lien holder is, like who their mortgagee, who holds the note, the bank, what the balance is, and then who the lender is, and then multiple if there are multiple. This is information about if they've declared bankruptcy, if there's a lease, etc. The FHA appraisal is probably always going to be no, because people hadn't had FHA appraisals done unless it was recently listed and they were under contract with an FHA buyer. Special assessments, that's kind of self-explanatory. Is there an HOA, and are you aware if there are any special assessments that are pending or already confirmed? Because you got to disclose that. Because in the offer to purchase, when we represent buyers, the assessment line where we say no and no, we say no and no because it's the listing agent, the seller's job to disclose that. This is why you're asking. So Juliana, when you list something at Villa or St. Regis, you're damn sure you're going to be filling that line out every damn year. Mobile home, if there's a VIN. Fuel tank, if there's a fuel tank on the property, is it buried? Where is it? Who owns it? When do they refill it? Usually it's just as needed, something like that. Home inspection, are they agreeing to do one in advance? This is where you would check that, and then you get April to order it, and you'd also put it on the professional services disclosure. If there are any other conditions, which there shouldn't be, you would put that there. They're going to initial the first line here, just like on the buyer agency agreement, where they allowed a firm to act as dual agent. Again, you're going to explain, just like you do for buyers, that we don't represent both sides of a transaction as individual agents. So as me representing you as a listing agent on your home, there's going to be a sign in the yard that's going to ring every agent on my offices or in my office when somebody calls that number. What you need to know is I'm never going to represent a buyer and you at the same time. Our team could do it, but it'll be somebody else, so there's no conflict of interest. It's allowed for one agent to do it. We just don't do it because we don't think it protects you. It doesn't protect them. And a lot of people will be like, you know what, that's right. But not every agent says that. Initial. This is just where everybody signs, and you make sure you fill out your information here. So firm name, firm license, your signature, your license number, your phone and email, and then the office address. Any questions? That's it. That's really the last thing. And then sometimes you'll circle back to that, to the net sheet at the end and pull it out and be like, okay, now let's talk about comps. So what I'll say is, here's the order. Meet, greet, pet the dog, hug the baby, give me the tour of the house. Sit down, let's talk about specifics. I'm going to tell you how the process is going to play out. All right, what questions do you have? All right, of course, how much can we get for it? All right, here are the comps. All right, this is what I think about the comps. Has that meet your expectations? Okay, calibrate based on what we talked about before. All right, let's do a net sheet based on that. All right, this is where we are. Okay, we've got 30 days. We can do it coming soon while you're doing XYZ on the punch list. Let's walk around one more time and talk about the things you need to do. All right, I'm ready to move forward. I got the sign in the yard. Let's get it coming soon. How many days do you need to get your touch-ups done before the photographer can come? All right, I'll send you the documents when I get home for both of you to sign. I need an email address for both of you. Now, Meredith, as we know, that doesn't always work, but that's best practices if people are being honest with us. That's just how you keep the conversation moving. Notice I never ask, hey, are you ready to do this? We talk about, all right, this is the next step. I talked with Meredith about this, assume the sale, assume that you're already working with them. Make sure that you're using language like, all right, this is our next step. This is what you do next. This is what I do next. This is how we get it on the market. This is how we get it activated. This is when I order for the photographer. This is when we get it on the market so people can start seeing it.
For me, tomorrow, Tiff is going to come with me. What is her role as far as like?
I think you guys need to talk about that ahead of time.
Right. We are going to, but I didn't know necessarily.
I think it depends on your comfort level. So like when Meredith and I went last week, we hadn't had the opportunity to do any of this. We talked about some stuff in the car and I talked about it and I think she appreciated this. I was like, okay, I'm the play-by-play person. You're the color announcer, right? I think if you do two people, you got to kind of determine who plays what role in that respect, So I think you guys should talk about how to approach it from that standpoint. I think it's also important if you go with two people that you explain why both of you are there.
Right.
I think, because they're like, why the hell are there two of you? You know what? Tiffany's here because of my BIC. She's my BIC. And you know what? She wanted to learn more about your property so she can tell the other agents on our team about it. Something like that. Or, she's worked with a lot of buyers and she lives in Jacksonville as well. I thought her perspective would help us frame the conversation better.
I like that.
Something like that.
Yep.
The way I did it with Meredith was I said, Meredith is new to our team. So it's just about making sure that we're on the same page about how we do this when we meet with sellers. There are 1,000 ways you can do it, just to kind of,
Okay, that's all I needed. I just needed some, because I was drawing a blank.
I know that's a lot of information. It's a lot of information when we give it to people. It's even more important when we're doing it like this, so you can understand how to give it to people, right? So does that flow feel natural? Do you understand kind of why we do things in that order? Does it make sense how I talk about it? It's very similar to the buyer consult, just from a little bit different angle. Hopefully it also makes sense about how, you focus on the value you're providing and the guidance for them and helping them focus on, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to help you accomplish this. This is why we're going about it. And these are the steps we're going to take to get there. I need you to do this. I'm going to do this. It's A, B, C, D, E. Boom, 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 boom. This is how we get there. What do you think? Questions? Y'all might want to ruminate on it and we could talk a little bit later.
Well, I was about to say, I don't really have many questions. I'm sure when I go back through it, I'll think of some, but of course I'll have Tiff. I totally see why you get a couple buyers under your belt before
right
listing,
right?
Because you can kind of, what side you're coming from, the other side.
It is very helpful to understand and go through the process working with buyers before you take something like this on. At least it helps you be more prepared, clearly, right? Because you have more knowledge about what the documents are and what they mean and all of that stuff. And also the process, because you've been through it. Even if you've been on the other side, you have some idea what the other people are going through, right? So it kind of at least helps frame the conversation. It helps you in your mind talk about the opposite of it. Yeah. There's a reason why people do it and they have buyer agents and then you graduate to listing agents. For us, the relationship with the client is more important, and hopefully I can help, and collectively as a team, we can help people get through the discussion about it so the client feels comfortable, especially if the relationship's already existing. So again, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I like the way we do it. Doesn't mean it's the only way, but hopefully it works for us.
Yeah.
Meredith?
I see like the buyer thing first too, just because of like, I mean, it helps build your confidence so that when you go in and you're like more trying to win them over because they're going to be the ones paying you versus with a buyer, it's like, oh, it's okay. I'm free to you. Like,
right.
So I get where working with a few buyers and building some confidence and stuff about knowing what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, even to realize this early in your career is important, to be able to say, hey, I see the difference kind of right away. That's a huge realization. It takes a while for that to click for people. So to be able to say that helps put you in a better position to have the conversation with people. Definitely.
Yeah. When it seems that the listing appointment is more like here's how we'll market your home, where the buyer consult is more like you marketing yourself and talking about the process. And like by talking about the process, it's like I know what I'm talking about, like, you know. So it's
also, you know, working with buyers, sometimes it's a gradual progression to build the relationship before, you know, you go out and you work together and then you start doing stuff. There's, I mean, 1,000,000% being real and transparent. Usually with sellers, it's just one shot. You know, this is Eminem, baby. I mean, you got your one shot. You better do it or you don't do it. You're not having a second listing appointment.
Yeah,
like 999 times out of 1,000. That's it. So, and I feel bad, Meredith, because we just had this appointment and you're probably like, well, you know, based on what we know, it didn't work. So this guy's full of shit. Best practices, I think this works.
What happened? They didn't sign?
You know, the husband got involved. It's not even his house. She owned it before. And now they're, you know, he's had bad experience with other agents. And now they're basically ghosting her.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Like I love people and then they're just assholes.
It can be. And that's why, you know, it's really good to make sure that we take the time to talk about all this in advance, to practice it with people that, you know, will give us honest and open feedback, use the dynamic of the team to talk about different ways to do it while accomplishing the same goals, you know, so you feel better about it and you also do a better job, you know, when you get the opportunity. So you do make the most of those opportunities. Because what do we talk about as a team a lot? In your career growing, I want you to be able to accomplish more with the same amount of energy, right? At the end of your second year, I hope you close more houses than you did in your first year with the same amount of energy. And that's the whole point. It's about getting more efficient and being better at what you're doing so you can spend your time doing other stuff. Or you can just sell that many more houses because you're fine investing that same amount of time, even though I can do more with it. Or I want to accomplish just the same thing, but have more free time, whatever. That's kind of the point of all we do, hopefully, to continue working on things and getting better. All right, we're getting off the rails. This is too much information. All right. Any other questions before we go?
Doug, would you like some NC State office supplies?
I'm going to break into your house and steal that thing off the wall between your windows.
Amazing. That's because our accountant for 2 years in a row, like, just forgot to file our taxes. So he ended up giving.
So that was a gift to say thank you for almost sending you to jail. Fantastic.
So Brandon, his office, his old office, he doesn't have as much room in his new office, and he's got all this like cute NC State like office stuff, but he can't put it anywhere. I was like, well, I'll take it to Doug.
Yeah, put it on my desk. I'll use it.
Paperclip holder.
Can you imagine the people that, how often am I going to have to redo these videos? Because people, like a year from now, imagine you're a new agent a year from now, and you're watching this, and I'm talking to you now, new agent, who the hell are these people? What have I decided to do? I'm a week into this. Look at what's going on here. I mean, I should have.
I always thought I got to know everybody by watching these videos.
Well, I think that's cool too. Man, I should have gone to Keller Williams or Coastal, right? Wow, what a mistake. No, you're in the right place. You can tell we're real people, right? All right,
Yeah.
That's enough. Y'all have a good night. I'll talk to you in the morning.
Thank you, Doug. Bye, Meredith.
Bye.
Good luck.
Thank you, you too.